Hey, ladies. I thought it would be helpful for some of you that prefer hearing things as opposed to reading things if I were to go over the Yoga Sutras that we'll be discussing more in depth tomorrow. So if you've already read all of the homework due for tomorrow, no need to watch this. But if you want to hear it again or hear it for the first time, this is what I have for you. If you want to get a comfortable position, you could count this half an hour towards your 40 classes. So not an entire 60 minutes, but 30 minutes of it. It probably will be just around that time. So I'll start with page 116. Excuse me. It's book 2, Sutra 29. The 8 limbs of yoga are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Yama is external restraints, how you treat others. Niyama is observances inward. Asana is yoga poses. Pranayama is controlling your breath. Pratyahara is withdrawal of senses. So it's kind of the first step towards meditation. Dharana is concentration on a single focus or a single object. Dhyana is meditation, so expanding on that single object's continuous flow of thought towards that single object. And samadhi is bliss or samadhi. That H has a little extra emphasis. Page 118. Yama consists of nonviolence, truthfulness or honesty, non-stealing, continence, and non-greed or non-hoarding. Now we come to Yama, the first limb of Ashtanga Yoga. We should remember here that each of the 8 limbs is equal to the others and necessary. Ahimsa is not causing pain. Some authors translate it as non-killing, but it is not that. Himsa means to cause pain. Ahimsa, not to. Killing is different than causing pain. Causing pain can be even more harmful than killing. Even by your words, even by your thoughts, you can cause pain. Satya is truthfulness or not lying. Ashteya means non-stealing. These things seem so elementary, but are at the same time elephantary. They shouldn't be discarded as being mild. They are not easy to perfect. Brahmacharya is continence or celibacy, and that's a moderation of energy, sexual energy in most of the translations of the Yoga Sutras. The last part of Yama is a parigraha, which can be translated in 2 ways. One is non-hoarding of things, so not being greedy, not accumulating beyond your capacity to use things in the proper way, not buying all the toilet paper off the shelf for a family of 1, perhaps. The other translation of a parigraha is not accepting gifts. And that we'll talk a little bit more about later. That's not accepting gifts with the expectation of you owing somebody. So it's the idea, all of these are, how can we live the most peaceful life and take away things that cause extra anxiety? And one of the things that it's talking about is when you accept gifts and then have to owe people in the future. These 5 principles make up Yama, or the abstentions. So it's what we abstain from when we treat other people. We will discuss them in detail under Sutras 35 through 39, which we'll talk about. Book 2, Sutra 32. It's page 120. Niyama consists of purity or cleanliness, contentment, which is santosha, accepting but not causing pain, which is tapas, study of spiritual books, and worship of God or worship surrender to your higher power or humanity. The next limb, niyama, concerns observances. The 5 points of yama, together with the 5 points of niyama, remind us of the 10 commandments of the Christian and Jewish faiths, as well as the 10 virtues of Buddhism. In fact, there is no religion without these moral or ethical codes. All spiritual life should be based on these things. They are the foundation stones without which we can never build anything lasting. Book 2, Sutra 35, page 122. In the presence of one firmly established in non-violence, or ahimsa, all hostilities cease. There is a song by MC Yogi called Ahimsa. It's worth a listen to. He's like a yogi rapper, singer, artist. But it's about approaching a predator in the wild. But when you practice Ahimsa, what happens? That's about what this is about. Starting with this 35th sutra, Patanjali covers the 10 virtues one by one. With the vow of ahimsa, or when the vow of ahimsa is established in someone, all enmity ceases in his or her presence because that person emits harmonious vibrations. If two people who have enmity between them come to such a person, they will temporarily forget it. That is the benefit of ahimsa. When it is practiced continuously in thought, word, and deed for some time, the entire personality brings out those vibrations. Even wild animals forget their nature of causing pain in the presence of one established in ahimsa. In ancient Hindu mythology, it states that in the forests where the saints and sages lived practicing ahimsa, the animals would only kill when they were hungry. At other times, a cow and a tiger would drink water side by side. The Buddha cultivated this practice. Wherever he went, he brought peace, harmony, and friendliness. St. Francis is another great example of this. Mahatma Gandhi tried his best to practice and propagate ahimsa, bringing many people together. Of course, there were failures in his efforts, but he would admit, I am still trying, I am still not that perfect. His entire life was based on the vows of ahimsa and satya. Even without obtaining 100% perfection in them, he earned a great name throughout the world as an apostle of peace. Perhaps if Gandhi's practice had been perfected, his assassin might have forgotten the idea of shooting Gandhi when he came into Gandhi's presence. So even with a little perfection, Gandhi was admired and revered by the entire world. Even a bit of ahimsa is enough to elevate us to a higher state. Sutra 36, page 123. To one established in truthfulness or honesty, that's satya. So satya, sat-nam is I am, truth. Nam is I am, like namaste is I am bowing to you and you are bowing to me. Namaskar is, or Surya Namaskar is I bow to the sun. Satya is just truth. That's the root is sat though, S-A-T. By the establishment of truthfulness, yogis get the power to attain for themselves and others the fruits of work without doing the work. In other words, things come to them automatically. All nature loves an honest person. Then you need not run after things, for they will run after you. And if you are always truthful, if no lie comes from your mouth, a time will come when all you say will come true. Even if you say something by mistake, it will happen. Because by the practice of satya, the words become so powerful and clean that honesty observes you. It wants to be with you always. If a curse is spoken, it will happen. If a blessing is said, it will happen. The more you lead a life of honesty, the more we will see the results, and that will encourage us to be more honest. With establishment in honesty, the state of fearlessness comes. One need not be afraid of anybody and can always lead an open life. When there are no lies, the entire life becomes an open book. But this comes only with an absolutely honest mind. When the mind becomes clear and serene, the true self reflects without disfigurement, and we realize the truth in its own original nature. A vow of absolute honesty means we can no longer tell white lies. If by being honest we will cause trouble, difficulty, or harm to anyone, we should keep quiet. Instead of lying and saying things like, I don't know, we can be frank and say, I know, but I don't want to tell. This doesn't mean that you should protect a criminal, because not only should we not lie, but we should not cause someone else to lie either. If we do it consciously, we are part of lie. In fact, under law, punishment is usually greater for the person behind a crime than for the one who actually commits it. I don't know if that's true. So first follow truth, and then truth will follow you. In the same way, first you learn to smoke, and then the smoke teaches you. It's really putting a positive spin on smoking, but hear me out. I'm quite certain nobody enjoys his or her first few cigarettes. They are taken in with great difficulty, nausea and vomiting. But gradually, we can take in a whole puff without letting out. Then eventually, the cigarettes begin to smoke us. First, we burn the cigarette. Later, it burns us, working on our tissues little by little. Yoga is not a philosophy to be followed with blind faith. In the beginning, it is true that confidence and trust are necessary. But as you continue to practice, every step will bring more and more hope, greater and greater confidence. If we are true yogis for just one day, we will be transformed and want more of it. It's contagious, just like any other habit. But first, we must make some effort until we get a taste of the benefit. Similarly, certain candies might appear a little strange, and a child might say, no, I don't want it, when the mother offers it. But if by chance the mother exerts some force and makes the child taste it, the child will want more and more. Once we get the taste, even if the whole world stands in our way, it won't keep us from our goal. I should mention, in order to make this time count for 30 minutes of your class requirement, some yoga practice should be done. So whether you are sitting in easy pose or lying in shavasana, legs up the wall might be a good idea, as long as you don't feel dizzy or nauseous, or just moving through your own gentle practice, paying attention to the words. That's what I'm looking for. Book 2, Sutra 37, page 125. To one established in non-stealing, all wealth comes. If we want to become the world's richest people, there is a very simple way. There's no need to go into the stock market or even to go to work. Just practice non-stealing. All of us are thieves. Knowingly and unknowingly, we steal things from nature. With every minute, with each breath, we pick nature's pocket. Whose air do we breathe? It is nature's. But that doesn't mean we should stop breathing and die. Instead, we should receive each breath with reverence and use it to serve others. Then we are not stealing. If we accept it and don't give anything in return, we are thieves. We steal because of greed. We want to do little and get a lot. Many people go to the office and just sit around, use the phones to make their own appointments all day, take free supplies from the supply room, and accept their paycheck at the end of the week. Aren't they stealing that money? Do we not also steal other people's ideas? If we are completely free from stealing and greed, contented with what we have, and if we keep our minds serene, all wealth will come to us. If we do not run after it, before long it runs after us. If nature knows we aren't greedy, she gains confidence in us, knowing we will never hold her for ourselves. But normally, when we get something, we tend to lock it away and put the keys in a safe place. We tend to imprison our possessions, whether they be money, property, or even people. The moment we try to imprison money, for example, it feels, what is this? I want to move around. They have made me round so I could roll, but here I am locked up. Oh, I've come to the wrong person. The moment I get the chance, I'll roll away. I don't know who stores their money in a ball, but I really like the idea that there are people that do. Coin, maybe? Maybe they mean coin. Some stingy people never open their vaults. The money just sits inside and prays, please, somebody release me. Barclay just sighed heavily. Inevitably, the prayer is heard by a robber who comes to the rescue. Instead, if we have the attitude, if you want to come, come. When you want to go, go. Everything will say, why do you push me away? Let me stay with you. Don't send me away. I experience this myself. I never lock up anything. Things just come and stay. Even if I tell them to go, they beg to be with me. We can all see this situation with babies. They may come to us, play, sit in our laps, but the moment they want to go, if we try to hold them, they become bored. What is this? I made a mistake coming here, and they run away. The next time we call them, they'll think, I don't want to come. Those people just keep me with them. Instead, if we just allow the babies to leave when they want, they'll certainly come to us again. Another way of stealing things is by not letting others use them. Suppose we own 1,000 acres of land, most of which we don't use. If there are people who want to buy 100 acres and we don't let them, we are stealing its usage. If you have 50 garments in your closet and your neighbor doesn't even have one, you are stealing your neighbor's usage. Because certain people have the buying power to make a lot of purchases, they raise prices for poor people who don't have much money. If everyone merely bought for their own necessity, goods would be left over in stores and prices would come down. The whole world's economy is based on this. In the United States, I have heard that thousands of tons of wheat and potatoes are dumped into the ocean to keep the market in proper condition and maintain prices. Instead of this practice, these goods should be given away because this lowers prices, though nobody thinks about much hunger. Is this not a sin or theft? The land belongs to everybody. A person in a corner of Australia is just as much an equal owner of the land as anyone else. What is grown in the United States can be first given to its citizens, with the surplus divided among everyone else. If we know how to care and share, no poverty or hunger need exist anywhere. In the richest country in the world, it is a pity to see things like hospitals being closed for lack of funds, while billions are spent on rockets, spacecrafts, and bombers. Is it more necessary to go to the moon than to take care of our neighbors? I don't negate scientific inventions and developments. They are fine. We can all ride to the moon, but only ever after everyone has been well-fed, clothed, and educated. So we know his political stance here. A South Indian proverb says, the stomach is crying for a piece of bread, the hair is crying for a bunch of flowers. Which is more important? The hair can live without a garland, but the stomach cannot go without a loaf of bread. So let us satisfy the stomach first, and then if we have money left over, we can get a number of garlands, which in Sanskrit is mala. Here people are sick and dying, while a handful of others want to go to the moon. When should we go to the moon? Only after making the earth happy. People who don't know how to live here will end up taking their same hell to the moon. The government steals the happiness and health of hundreds and thousands of people. It is a public theft, a daylight robbery. Sometimes when I read the news, I feel funny about all of this. Everything is based on fear, pride, and competition. All the anti-ballistic missiles are created out of fear. It is like saying, I am mortally afraid of you, so I must protect myself with bombs and missiles. But in the next breath, the government says, let's be friends. Let's exchange cultural matters. How can you have both? Another thing I see are many of the secret plans of the US right in the magazines. I once read an article about an anti-ballistic system, how it worked, what the plans were. I really don't understand this principle. If I'm afraid of you, I won't say, here is a blueprint of the pistol I have in my pocket. In another magazine, I saw a photo of the hotline telephone, which is kept under lock and key with someone watching over it always. Agony, agony, agony. Now scientists are making lists of all the broken pieces of satellites revolving around the Earth so no country mistakes them for missiles. Over a slight mistake, the whole world could go to the dogs. And people can always make mistakes. Just imagine how many bombers loaded with nuclear weapons are flying around. Is there any guarantee nothing will happen to them? So with all our modern inventions, we are really living in a horrible state. Our ancestors on horseback and carts seemed much happier, but they lived much shorter lives. They might have eaten cruder food. They might have gone without radios, televisions, electronics, and supersonic transport, but mentally they were happier and healthier. It's high time to get rid of this anxiety. How long can we live under such great tension? By all this, we can see richness has nothing to do with monetary wealth. The richest person is the one with a cool mind, free of tension and anxiety. Changing all these world situations is not in our hands. We are not going to stop all these things. But what is in our hands is the ability to find joy and peace right here and now. If we live in the present, even though the whole world might blow up in a minute, it won't bother us. We can be happy in situations of tension. If we have decided to be happy, nobody can make us unhappy. Anything might happen, like a pandemic or an earthquake. But we need not bother about the future. I'm going to pause on that for a second. From Baron Baptiste's Journey into Power, page 34. It just had a similar tone. When you tune into the present moment, you rein your focus back in from the distractions happening around you. When you make this directional shift from paying outward attention to paying inward attention, that's one of Patanjali's 8 limbs. That's pratyahara. So we start by withdrawing our senses inward. Same thing. You can really hear what your body is telling you. Your body communicates with you through a language we all understand. It's called sensation. So it's your central nervous system. And as with any good relationship, good listening is needed. Hearing your body's voice brings you right here into the here and now. Are you experiencing pain? Are you having trouble maintaining a steady flow of breath? What adjustments do you need in order to make your yoga more comfortable for you to make it work? When you're in the now, a world of options opens up to you. You have more choices and you can modify, dilute, pull back, or push forward as you need. If you are in the now, you will know exactly how far to go, when to push, and when to surrender. You'll know what you need simply because you're focusing on the tangible reality of each and every second. You already have the answer to how within you. Our bodies are encoded with this innate knowledge. The key to accessing it is by coming into the moment. Each time you think you don't know how is a clue that you aren't willing to trust your intuitions. Use this question as a tip-off and that it's time to tune in and trust the light of your inner knowing. Back to the sutras. We are not going to change the whole world, but we can change ourselves and feel free as birds. We can be serene even in the midst of calamities, and by our serenity, make others more tranquil. Serenity is contagious. Ahimsa is contagious. We should plague everyone with joy. If we smile at someone, he or she will smile back, and a smile costs nothing. If we are to die in a minute, why not die happily, laughing? But a carefree life is possible only with a well-controlled mind, one that is free of anxiety, one without personal desires or possessions. Book 2, Sutra 38, page 129. It's on brahmacharya. By one established in continence or brahmacharya, also known as moderation, vigor is gained, strength, your vital power, your energy. By getting established in continence or brahmacharya, we save energy. Virya means vital energy. Labha means profit. You okay, bud? It's okay, love. Hey. My dog's doing the reverse sneezing thing. When there is a loss of virya, we gain energy. Good boy. What we gain by this saving is worth knowing. In the name of loving and giving, it's okay, boy. Many times we lose this energy and become mentally and physically depleted. So this one is self-care ties into this. If we're not strong mentally and physically, we can never gain real spiritual wealth. The main cause for the present chaotic condition among the young is ignorance about virya. Young people say, when you love somebody, how can you stop giving? But out of love, they do not know how to give. Sometimes they even give VD. They lose their health and spoil the health of the ones that they love. Can you say you love me and completely drain my blood and poison my system? No. If you love a child, will you make the child eat a box of candy? That isn't love. It is mere thoughtlessness. If you really love the child, you would say, maybe not the whole box. Unless it's like a special occasion. Even though the child is unhappy about it, you're proving yourself to be a loving friend. The case of brahmacharya is like that. The seminal fluid gives strength and stamina to the brain and nerves. Nervous debility is caused by a lack of stamina because it has all been drained away. This is not Western medicine stuff that can be proved. This is Eastern philosophy. Keep that in mind. If sex is the only form of loving, then how can a brother and a sister love one another? A son and mother, a daughter and a father? Sex is not the only way to show love. If love is based only on physical contact, the mind will never be satisfied with just one person. Hey, Barks. Hey, Barkley, stop doing that. Barkley, big boy. Hey, stop. You're going to hurt yourself. Barkley, stop. Hey, Alex. Could you help Barkley, please? He's trying to get something underneath the stove, and I think he's going to cut his face. Maybe a ball? Thank you very much. Sorry about that.
What you doing?
If love is based only on physical contact, thank you, the mind will never be satisfied with just one person. Today there will be this person, tomorrow that person, the third day another person. Where is the limit? Seminal fluid is our life. If stored properly, it can bring a lot of energy. When absorbed into the system, it gets transformed into prana. So pranayama is restraining your life force through breath. Our breath is our life force, breathing in and out, and yama is a restraint of. So prana here is just energy. Conserved sexual energy in women also gets transformed. It is that vital force that allows you to really help people and have good relationships. Without much prana, we can never give anything to anybody. Just as only a fully charged battery can give power, never a weak one. In observing brahmacharya, we build up this energy. A yogi should always keep this in mind. Teaching yoga is not like teaching history or geometry. Teachers must impart a life force, a little current into others. How can they do this if they are weak, if they have run-down, discharged batteries? So keep your batteries full of energy. That doesn't mean you must completely stay away from sex. Instead, be moderate. Preserve as much energy as possible. Have sex only in the proper way in a marital relationship. Have 1 or 2 children. Until you have a regular partner for life, store the energy. After all, when can you ask a partner to go into business with you? Only after you've saved up enough capital. The Hindu system has 4 stages in life: brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those right. Until one finishes his or her education, that person is a brahmachari, strictly celibate. And again, this is the Hindu system. With this saved energy, he or she can grasp things well. The brain power is more dynamic. In high school and colleges now, most students learn sex and nothing else. Instead, finish your studies, then go into partnership with another person. That is called the grahastha stage. Bring your knowledge and strength together. You should not come together because beauty doesn't last. However much makeup you wear, physical beauty will not last long. The real beauty is inside, in your character, your noble ideas, your aim in life. With noble ideas, a noble child can be one of your contributions to the world. Expressing your love and affections without overindulgence is not wrong. It is part of nature. Even couples who don't plan to have children should have limitations. Even animals have restrictions. Once a female dog is pregnant, no male can come near her. A lioness brings forth a cub once a year. Certain animals won't even make love in front of others, elephants, for example. So, in your own way, according to your stage of life, have limitations. In the Hindu tradition, the Grahastha stage is followed by Vanprastha, where the husband and wife have finished their worldly responsibilities and become totally involved in spiritual pursuits. They take pilgrimages or stay in an ashram. Then, at a certain point, they take sannyasa and drop off all worldly ties completely. They are no longer husband and wife. In certain cases, if an individual has that much discrimination, she may take sannyasa directly after the brahmacharya or grahastha stage. But these days, many people are interested in premarital tests. That is something like going to a shopkeeper and asking the price of a few apples. $1, the shopkeeper says. Are they any good? Sure. I think I'll try one. Shopkeepers will never let us do that. They'll let us smell an apple and check out its size and shape and weight, but they'll never let us sample it before buying. Are people less than apples? Are they inferior? Should they allow everyone to come and take a bite before buying? If you want to offer yourself to someone, do it purely, chastely. You're offering something very sacred and holy, much more than an apple. Why should you let someone pollute this offering? If people want to know one another before marriage, they can become friends. That is how our ancestors lived. But today, in the name of freedom, people go to extremes. By observing brahmacharya or celibacy or moderation of energy, we preserve not just physical energy alone, but mental, moral, intellectual, and ultimately spiritual energy. Sexual energy that is preserved gets transformed into a subtle energy called ohas. This is similar to personal magnetism. It tones the entire personality, builds the nerves, improves brain power, and calms the mind. I think that's all subjective. There is a similar word to ohas in English, ozone. In the early morning before sunrise, we can go out and breathe the ozonic wind, which has a special vibration and energy to it. But once the sun's rays fall, this effect is lost. That's why the period between 4 and 6 in the morning is called Brahma Muhurta, the Brahmic time or divine period, and is a very sacred time to meditate. According to Ayurveda, that's also the best time to meditate, before the sun rises. And ohas, when stored, creates tejas. Tejas is the aura or the glow. A newspaper reporter once wrote an article about me called "The Swami Makes the People Glow." How can the Swami do this? Is it some peculiar yogic makeup? No. Everyone can glow and transmit that energy when they preserve a lot of ohas. Even ordinary carbon left under the earth in an airtight chamber for a considerable time gets hardened, changes its color, and becomes a diamond. If you preserve honey, it gets crystallized. In the same way, the semen gets transformed and diffused. This is why continence is a very important part of yoga. If a handful of people come forward with strong wills, nothing is impossible. One Buddha changed half the globe, one Jesus, 3/4. We all have that capacity. Let us know the value of brahmacharya. That is certainly will make us strong, happy, healthy, wealthy, and blissful. Book 2, Sutra 39, page 132. When non-greed or non-hoarding, also known as a parigraha, is confirmed, a thorough illumination of the how and why of one's birth comes. A parigraha is abstention from greed or hoarding, which is a form of stealing or not receiving gifts. We read this. I think. I'm going to keep going anyway. Many times, we talked about it. That's why. I feel like I just said this. Many times we get gifts that are merely in advance for a future obligation. One day someone comes to us with a gift, and the next day he or she telephones to say, "Remember that gift I gave you? Well, could you please do a little favor for me?" We feel obliged to do that. Even the IRS won't accept business gifts as being tax deductible because they aren't a real donation. They're only given to get something in return. A donation means something given just for the sake of giving, not for name, money, or publicity. Accepting gifts binds us and makes us lose our neutrality. The mind will say you received a gift from him. How can you say something against him? On the other hand, if we are strong enough to remain free of obligation, we can accept gifts. Feel, I'm giving her an opportunity to use your money in the right way, but I am not obligated by this gift. She shouldn't come to me tomorrow for an obligation. Then we are not bound. When the mind becomes this calm and clear by being free of desires and obligations, we gain the capacity to see how our desires caused our present birth. We directly see the cause and effect relationship because we are detached from it. We are no longer bound up with it. Book 2, Sutra 40. By purification arises disgust for one's own body and for contact with other bodies. When saucha or purity is observed, it makes you feel that even your own body is impure. Every minute there are secretions. Impurities are eliminated every second. The breath pours out carbon dioxide. The skin discharges perspiration. If we really think about it, it seems to be a very dirty place in which we live. No matter how much perfume we put on it, it only hides the dirt. If our perspiration is foul, we spray on some deodorant. If our skin looks dirty, we dab on a little powder to hide it. I don't know who does that, but every time we cover the dirt, it comes back. When we realize this, we develop an indifference towards the body. Not that we neglect it, but we no longer adore it. The time we once spent on our bodies can be used for other purposes like japa, and that means repetition, meditation, or reading spiritual books. And that's svadhyaya. When we feel our bodies are the embodiment of dirt, how can we be attracted to other bodies? These attractions will also get reduced and will certainly save us a great deal of trouble. When we spend more time on deeper things in the body and eventually go into spiritual matters, realizing we're the true self and not the body at all, we will not be interested in bringing two bodies together anymore. We will just think of this process as two cloths rubbing together because there's no difference between the body and a cloth. One is a skin shirt, the other a common shirt. The real union is not the union of two bodies. What is it we call masculine and feminine bodies? There are different shapes of flesh. By putting two lumps together, how can we obtain nirvana? Spiritual union doesn't necessarily mean physical union. People misinterpret Tantra yoga as something to do with sexual union. The Tibetan tantric system speaks of Shiva and Shakti, Shiva being the masculine, Shakti is the feminine. This doesn't refer to physical forms, but to the positive and negative forces within each person. The Hatha yogis call it the sun and the moon. Ha is sun, Tha is moon. The inner sun is in your solar plexus, the moon at the base of your spine. In order to become united, they must come together. This is known as the prana-apana union. Prana-apana samayokta, says the Bhagavad Gita. The energy that flows down should be turned up and returned to its source. The heat produced by meditation goes up and affects certain psychic glands, which start to produce nectar juices. These flow from the base of the spine through the nerves, building them up, making them more alive, and helping them become almost immortal. The Sanskrit term amrita, or nectar, means immortal. Your body becomes filled with light, ohas and tehas, and is converted into a yogic body. That is where the term offering your nectar to the altar comes from. I think that's where Baron Baptiste refers to letting your nectar flow. I think it also comes from the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Of course, those people interested in drinking will offer a bottle of whiskey to the altar and then take it back to drink. The mind can really deceive us. We should be sure of the esoteric meaning in the scriptures. If we take only the surface meaning, we might be misled. For example, take the offering of fruits at the altar. Who wants these fruits? Do you think God is going to eat them? It means offering the fruits of our actions to God. We are trees growing in nature, and all our energy, our actions, our thoughts, our words are the fruits of our lives, which we must offer for the benefit of humanity in the name of God. This is where the term forbidden fruit in the Bible comes from. Each one of us is an Adam and an Eve because we try to eat the fruits of our actions, which we are forbidden to do. The biblical story doesn't mean that an Adam once lived who ate the fruit and we are reaping his sins. We are doing the same thing here and now. Every scripture has its own esoteric meanings in story form. This is because in ancient times, they didn't want everybody to understand the subtle techniques and follow them without proper preparation. In the ancient Indian medical science known as Ayurveda, for example, there is a method called Kaya Kalpa, used for the rejuvenation of the entire body. If its techniques were well known, many people would wish to rejuvenate their bodies just to enjoy the world, rather than to use them selflessly. So it is explained with code words which are not easily understood by everyone. Another example is a powerful herb called musukai in the Tamil. I don't know how to pronounce that language name. Tamil. I think it's Tamil. It's a guess. This is a very powerful drug which could be misused in the wrong hands. But musu also means monkey, and kai has the meaning of one's hand. So the preparation is called double monkey's hands. A person might just go cut off 2 monkeys' hands and try to make a medicine. Ignorant people are saved from hurting themselves or others. But once we have purity of mind, no doubt someone will come to tell us what the true meaning of these things are and what it is to be done. When the disciple is ready, the guru comes, is a well-known Hindu saying. And we say, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. It comes from that saying. When this receiver is well tuned, the music comes. We need not send out invitations. All that is necessary for us is to tune ourselves. Then, without a second's delay, the guru will come in some form, our teacher. If we are not ready, though, even with 100 teachers around, we won't be benefited, for a guru can't force anything into us. We must be ready to receive. Similarly, the music is within the radio, but the radio cannot force the speaker to vibrate and bring it out. That is why preparation developing virtues like yama and niyama is so important. Book 2, Sutra 41, page 136 and 137. Moreover, one gains purity of sattva, or cheerfulness of mind, one-pointedness, mastery of the senses, and fitness for self-realization. First, you understand the body, then the heart is purified. When the heart is pure, you are always happy. Concentration of the mind comes automatically without your even trying. Only an impure mind runs here and there, forcing us to bring it back again and again. All the senses are controlled too. And then comes Atman Darsana Yogatvani, fitness for self-realization or the vision of the Atma. These are all benefits of following Niyama's first observance, purity. Just be pure in thought and word and action. See how easy? But we don't want to do easy things because there's no pride in it. What is the pride in jumping over a small gutter? We want to jump rivers and break our necks. The ego never allows us to accept things easily. But even if we practice purity for just one day, we will really enjoy the benefit. Just as a sample or an example, feel today I'm going to be absolutely pure, absolutely celibate, absolutely honest. You'll be tempted to repeat the experiment again and again. Sutra 42, Book 2, page 137. By contentment or practicing santosha, supreme joy is gained. As a result of contentment, one gains supreme joy. Here we should understand the difference between contentment and satisfaction. Contentment means just to be as we are without going to outside things for our happiness. If something comes, we let it come, and if not, it doesn't matter. Contentment means neither to like or dislike. By practicing tapas, impurities of body and mind, body and senses are destroyed and occult powers gained. Sutra 43, Book 2, page 138. The direct meaning of tapas is to burn. By the physical tapas of fasting, we burn our excess fat along with the toxins our bodies have accumulated. By mental tapas, we burn all our old impressions or your old stories that you have in your head of who you are. By verbal tapas, observing silence or controlling our speech, when we burn, we feel some heat and pain. We undergo suffering. So tapas also means to accept suffering. If someone suffers, he or she is blessed because by that suffering, some impurities are purged out. Not all suffering is good, but some is. In order to make our minds clean and steady, we must accept suffering, pain, and poverty. It is even more beneficial if at the same time that we accept pain, we bring happiness to others. So accept the pains of others. We never lose by accepting pain. The more the pain, the more gain. No pain, no gain. We should never run from it. When it comes to physical asana or yoga poses, though, no pain, no gain does not exist. In our lives, there are hundreds of opportunities for tapas. Even a cloth must undergo tapas to become clean. What will the laundryman do with my cloth? Will he fold it, put some sandalwood paste and a flower on it, and give it back to me? No. First, he'll soak it in boiling water, then he'll beat at it every which way. Then he'll tumble and roll and squeeze it in the washing machine. And after that, he'll dry it in a hot chamber and iron it. Only then does the cloth lose all its dirt and grime. It undergoes tapasya to become pure. The laundryman has no hatred for the cloth when he does all these things. He only wants to make it pure. It is out of his love that he inflicts pain. The mind, too, must be washed, squeezed, tossed, dried, and ironed. Don't think that if someone causes us pain, they hate us, but rather that they are helping us to purify ourselves. That's positive spin. If we can think like that, we are real yogis. If anybody hurts our feelings, we should just smile at them. Thank you. I want more and more. I know you want me to become pure soon. Bring your friends also to inflict pain. If we understand this and accept it, we'll never find fault with anybody who abuses, scolds, or insults us. If flowery words make us happy but insults upset us, we know our minds are not yet strong. A word of abuse helps us understand our weakness. My master said, adapt, adjust, accommodate. Bear insult, bear injury, that is the highest sadhana. To go into a corner and say a mantra is easy sadhana. Anyone can do it, and that means spiritual practice. But if we are insulted and keep a serene mind, but really, not just pretend, but really have a serene mind, it is higher than saying thousands of rosaries of japa. That is tapasya. And again, japa is repetition. So usually you practice japa with mantra, so a word or a phrase that you repeat that's given to you by your guru. The power to control the body and senses comes by tapasya. If we accept everything, what can affect us? If somebody calls us a fool, accept it. A wonderful person, accept it. Once a man wanted to anger a saint. He began insulting him. You dirty rogue, see how many people you have ruined with your teachings? The saint remained quiet, smiling at his tormentor. Don't you understand me? He asked. Yes, sure. You mean you've understood my insults? I did. Then how can you keep quiet? The saint answered, Son, suppose you brought me some fruit and I refused. What would you do? I would take it back. Yes, continued the saint. In the same way, I don't enjoy all these things you have brought me, so you can just take them right back. Handling things this way takes real strength and courage and awareness. A person who can only strike back physically may be physically strong but mentally weak. Mental strength comes by tapasya, accepting pain. Then pain is no longer pain, but is joy, because we have realized the benefit of it. A beautiful example is the mother who feels so much joy in bringing forth a child, although it may be very painful. She will never avoid the pain, rather she welcomes it, knowing it is the price she pays for the great benefit later on. Page 140, Book 2, Sutra 44. By study of spiritual books, one's communion with one's chosen deity. Svadhyaya, or spiritual study, means study of scriptures and also any practice that is your own personal sadhana into which you've been initiated. It's anything that allows you to focus on being at peace as well. Regular practice becomes steady. By it, we get the vision of God. By constant effort, we get a vision of the deity connected with our particular mantra, for each mantra has a deity. In other words, each name has a form. If we just stick to a certain name, eventually the form will appear automatically. It may come as a human form, a light, or a sound. Sutra 44. By total surrender to God, samadhi is attained. Ishvara Pranidhana is a life of dedication, of offering everything to God or to humanity. Why do I add humanity? When we want to offer something to God, is God sitting somewhere waiting for us to give him something? Or her? Where and who is God? God made the world, and the world itself is God, and all that is outside us is God. When we dedicate our lives to the benefit of humanity, we have dedicated ourselves to God. Whatever we do can easily be transformed into worship by our attitude. We can do anything and everything as long as we do it with the idea of serving the world at large. We can serve our tables, our chairs, and everything around us. If we don't pull chairs mercilessly from one corner to another, we are serving them. If we drag them, they cry. Anything handled roughly will feel pain. There should be a gentle yogic touch with everything, even our spoons, forks, and plates. It reminds me of an article written by my good friend, Brother David Steindl Rast, a Benedictine monk. He wrote of how he felt God talking when he was washing dishes. If you handle them gently, he said, they would make a beautiful jingling sound. But if you throw them here and there, they cry. So dishwashing can be worship. My master Swami Sivanandai said, convert every work into yoga with the magic wand of right attitude. Many of us are interested in instant bliss. Well, we can have it right here and right now without waiting for the Kundalini to be aroused and move to the Sahasrara chakra, that's your crown chakra, if we dedicate ourselves completely. Once we give everything to God, we are renunciates. We have nothing to possess. We have nothing to possess. We have nothing to worry about. All worry stems from attachments and clinging to possessions. The attachment, I mean, is a mental one. What we want is a mental rather than physical detachment. We can even possess things physically if we're mentally detached. This is continuous samadhi. We shouldn't think samadhi means sitting in a corner, forgetting ourselves, and keeping the body still like a rock. Real samadhi means tranquility of the mind, which is possible only when we dedicate everything and are free from all attachments. Normally, we want everything: name, fame, money. We become surrounded by these wants. In India, a proverb says, if you are interested in weaving, you shouldn't keep a monkey for a pet. If you do, whenever you weave some cloth and leave it for a moment, the monkey will cut off at least 100 strands. In the same way, if you are interested in peace, why should you have wants and possessions? They can never go together. No religion, no prophet, no saint has ever said one could have both peace and wants. Only a desireless mind, a mind free from everything, completely naked, can have peace. The Bhagavad Gita says, Tyagat Santur Anantaram. That's a guess. By total dedication, unending peace. Either give everything to the world, to the community of your fellow people, or give everything to God. Ishvara Pranidhana is an easy path. In one of the stanzas of the Gita, it is said, do everything in my name, then you will get peace and joy. If we understand this, there is no reason even to read any more of these sutras. Just do everything in my name, then you will get peace and joy. But some people might want something different. Tastes differ. That is why the scriptures give different paths. Sometimes the mother feeds the child from a different plate just for variety, but the same food still comes to the baby. It doesn't matter which plate we eat from as long as we eat. To get to the point of complete dedication, many different routes are available. Hundreds of paths, religions, philosophies, all with one ultimate goal. It is immaterial what we do to achieve it as long as we achieve it. By practicing just one of these virtues, all the rest follow. If one is perfected, concentration, meditation, and even samadhi will come. When even one virtue becomes our nature, the mind becomes clean and tranquil. Then there is no need to practice meditation. We will automatically be meditating always. Just a few more. Page 19 of the book. Book 1, Sutra 14. Practice becomes firmly grounded when well attended to for a long time without break and in all earnestness. The first qualification for the practice is that it should be done for a long time. Unfortunately, we just want the result immediately. If I ask you to repeat a mantra and tell you that you'll become more peaceful and realize beautiful things within, you will go back home, repeat it for 3 days, and then call me. I've repeated it for 3 days, but nothing happened. Maybe this is not a suitable mantra for me. Can you give me a different one? See? So Patanjali says for a long time, but he doesn't say how long. And then your practice should be without break. I often hear, oh, I've been practicing yoga for the past 10 years, but I'm still the same. How often? Oh, off and on. So it must be continuous practice also. The last qualification is in all earnestness. That means with your full attention, with the entire application of your mind, with full faith in your achievement. Even when you want something or somebody on the worldly level, you will be after it day and night. You don't sleep, you don't even eat, you're always at it. If this quality is necessary to achieve even worldly success, how much more so for success in yoga? So let us not be like little children who sow a seed today and dig it up tomorrow to see how much the root went down. We need all these three qualities: patience, devotion, and faith. Skip ahead to page 48. It is Book 1, Sutra 31. Accompaniments to the mental distractions include distress, despair, trembling of the body, and disturbed breathing. These are symptoms that we all sometimes experience which prevent concentration and meditation. This is where we have to take care of our day-to-day activities, movements, associations, and diet. We shouldn't allow the body and mind to be tamasic. They should always be in sattvic, or a tranquil condition. That cannot be created but all of a sudden by meditation alone. So we have to take care of all of these things in our life. A sickly body can never be fit to sit. It will not allow the mind to meditate quietly. Weak nerves will always create tremors. When some people meditate, they tremble and perspire. These are symptoms of physical weakness. But such things will not happen if we keep our body in proper condition by right diet, exercise, proper rest, and if we do not allow it to be lazy or dull. Another sutra on self-care. Moving to page 54, I believe, on pranayama, Sutra 34. Calm is retained by the controlled exhalation or retention of the breath. Here, Patanjali talks about pranayama, or the control of the movement of the prana, the energy, which we experience as our breathing. Some pranayama specialists say Patanjali meant that we should retain the breath outside. Instead of breathing in and holding the breath, breathe out and hold. But he actually didn't go that deeply into the different kinds of breathing exercises. And he probably meant that we should just watch and regulate the breath. So that's breath awareness. You can begin with a deep exhalation, then watch the breath come slowly in and out. This is also given in the Buddhist meditation called Anapanasati. Anapana is similar to the Pranayama of Hatha Yoga. The force that moves upward is the prana. The force that moves downward is the apana. The aim is to bring together the prana and the apana. In fact, Hatha Yoga is based mainly on the equilibrium of these two forces, Hatha meaning the sun and moon. The two opposites must be blended together in a gentle way. So here he says that to bring peace to the mind, watch and regulate the breath. Easy. We should always remember that the mind and the prana, or breathing, have close connections. The great South Indian saint Thirumular, I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, Thirumular said to Hirumular, where the mind goes, the prana follows. We see that even in our daily life. If your mind is agitated, you'll be breathing heavily. If you're deeply interested in reading something or thinking seriously and break the concentration to watch your breath, you'll notice that you're hardly breathing. That is why after deep thinking, you sigh heavily and take a deep breath. This proves that when the mind is concentrated and remains still, the breath stops. That is called Kavala Kumbhaka, or the automatic retention of breath without your effort. People who go into deep meditation discover this. In the reverse way, if you regulate the prana, you regulate the mind automatically. That's why whenever you're agitated, worried, or puzzled, just take a few deep breaths, put your entire mind on the breath. Within a few minutes, you'll find that the mind is completely serene. It's a very useful hint for our daily lives. Suppose all of a sudden you're getting into a fit of anger. Take a few deep breaths, watch the breath, and the anger will go away. Whatever be the agitation in the mind, regulating the breath will help. Page 75. Book 2, Sutra 1. Accepting pain as help for purification, the study of spiritual books, and surrender to the Supreme Being constitute yoga in practice. Using the Sanskrit terms, Kriya Yoga comprises tapas, svadhyaya, and Ishvara pranidhana. Tapas is often misunderstood because it gets translated as mortification or austerity, when it actually stands for something different. Tapa means to burn or create heat. Anything burned will be purified. The more you fire gold, the more pure it becomes. Each time it goes into the fire, more impurities are removed. But how can this burning process be affected with our mental impurities? By accepting all the pain that comes to us, even though the nature of the mind is to run after pleasure. We will actually be happy to receive pain if we keep in mind its purifying effects. Such acceptance makes the mind steady and strong, because although it is easy to give pain to others, it is hard to accept without returning it. Such self-discipline obviously cannot be practiced in our meditation rooms, but only in our daily lives as we relate with other people. Tapas also refers to self-discipline. Normally, the mind is like a wild horse tied to a chariot. Imagine the body is the chariot, the intelligence is the charioteer, the mind is the reins, and the horses are the senses. The self, or true you, is the passenger. If the horses are allowed to gallop without reins and charioteer, the journey will not be safe. Although control of the senses and organs often seems to bring pain in the beginning, it eventually ends in happiness. If tapas is understood in this light, we will look forward to pain. We will even thank people who cause it, since they are giving us the opportunity to steady our minds and burn out impurities. In the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna talks about tapasya. He says, those who practice severe austerities, not enjoined by the scriptures, who are given to hypocrisy and egoism, impelled by the forces of lust and attachment, who are senseless, who torture all the elements in the body, and me also, who dwells in the body, know thou these to be of demoniacal resolves. Demoniacal. In the name of tapasya, people sometimes practice all sorts of self-torture. In the East, there are sadhus, or ascetics, who lie on beds of nails or keep one arm raised in the air so long that the arm gets thinner and thinner and decays. These are all just forms of self-torture. Lord Krishna himself says these people are demons because they disturb the pure self who dwells within their bodies. Self-discipline is an aid to spiritual progress, whereas self-torture is an obstacle. Lord Krishna divides the true austerities into 3 groups: physical, verbal, and mental. He classifies worship, purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-injury as the austerities of the body. Many people immediately come to the conclusion that physical tapasya is not suitable. The moment they hear the word celibacy, they become dismayed. But brahmacharya means control, not suppression, of the sex drive or sex force. If the mind can be filled with sublime thoughts by meditation, mantra repetition, prayer, study of scriptures, and contemplation of the sexless, pure self, the sex desire will be devitalized by the withdrawal of the mind. On the other hand, suppression of sexual desire will attach you to it again and again, producing wet dreams, irritability, and mental restlessness. So the mind should be purified first, then it is easy to control the senses. Strict control over the senses alone will lead to difficulties instead of spiritual progress. The next tapas is austerity of speech. Speech should bring tranquility and be truthful, pleasant, and beneficial. As the Vedic teaching goes, speak what is true, speak what is pleasant. And one should not speak what is true if it is not pleasant, nor what is pleasant if it is false. If something is true and unpleasant, we should make it more pleasant by presenting it in a proper way. Mental austerity is described by Sri Krishna as serenity of mind, good-heartedness, self-control, and purity of nature. Next comes svadhyaya, or study. This means study that concerns the true self, not merely analyzing the emotions and minds as the psychologists and psychiatrists do. Anything that will elevate your mind and remind you of your true self should be studied. The Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Quran, these Yoga Sutras, or any uplifting scripture. Study does not just mean passing over the pages. It means trying to understand every word and studying with your heart. The more often you read them, the more you understand. For thousands of years, so many people have been studying the Bible. Every day, thousands of people read the same book. On the other hand, we have millions and millions of books that after we read them once, we throw them away. We don't exhaust the Bible even after reading it hundreds of times. Each time we read it, we see it in a new light. That is the greatness of the Holy Scriptures. They are that way because they were created by holy prophets who experience the truth. Each time we read these works, we elevate ourselves to see a little more. It is something like going to the Empire State Building. When you look out of the first floor window, you see something. From the second floor, you see a little more, and from the third, a little more. But when you finally reach the 101st floor and look over the balcony, you see something completely different. Similarly, in reading the scriptures, we slowly rise up, expanding and enlarging our minds. The more we elevate our minds, the better our understanding is. But only when we become prophets ourselves will we fully understand the scriptures. That's just nature's law. If you want to understand me fully, you must become one. Otherwise, you can understand me only according to your own capacity. In the same way, God cannot be understood by books alone. God can only be understood when you become God. A proverb says, once a saint knows a saint, only a saint knows a saint, only a snake knows the leg of another snake. You cannot exactly understand how a snake crawls unless you become a snake. We can hear things, study, form our own opinions, use our imagination, but nothing can equal experience. Many people simply become walking libraries. They have thousands of books recorded in their brain like computers, but that doesn't mean they actually experience the self, capital S. The self cannot be known by theory alone. By merely thinking no one has ever understood the one that is beyond the mind. Only when you transcend the mind can you understand it. This is where yoga differs from most other psychological approaches. They usually believe you have to understand everything with the mind, and that beyond it you cannot understand anything. They stop there, but yoga claims that there is a knowledge possible without the mind. All that you know through the mind is limited and conditioned. How is the limited mind to understand the unlimited one? Only by transcending it and getting into the unlimited. Study is all right, but not for mere logic, quoting, or fighting. Actually, it is only when you quote from your own experience that your words have weight. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say, forget all you have learned, become a child again, then it will be easy to realize your wisdom. Sometimes learning becomes an obstacle if you don't know what and how much to learn. So limit your reading and put into practice what you read. Just pick 1 or 2 books, anything that will remind you of your goal. The last part of Kriya Yoga is simple but great. It is surrendering to the Supreme Being. I understand this to mean dedicating the fruits of your actions to God or to humanity, or your higher power if you have one. Dedicate everything, your study, your japa, repetition, your practices to God. When you offer such things, God accepts them, but then gives them back many times magnified. You never lose what you've given. Even virtuous, meritorious deeds will bind you in some form or other if you do them with an egoistic feeling. Every time you do something, feel, may this be dedicated. If you constantly remember to do this, the mind will be free and tranquil. Try not to possess anything for yourself. Temporarily keep things, but feel you are just a trustee, not an owner. Be like the mother who receives a soul, nourishes it for 9 months, and then lets it come back out into the world. If the mother were always to keep the baby in her wound, what would happen? There would be great pain. Once something is ripened, it should be passed on. So dedication is true yoga. Say, I am thine, all is thine, thy will be done. Mine binds, thine liberates. If you drop minds all over, they will undermine your life or blow up in your face. But if you change all the minds to thines, or from mine to yours, you will always be safe. Let us all dedicate our lives for the sake of the entire humanity. With every breath, every minute, every atom of our bodies, we should repeat this mantra. Dedication, dedication, giving, giving, loving, loving. That is the best japa, the best yoga, which will bring us all permanent peace and joy and keep the mind free from the disturbances of all the chitta-vritas. And that is yoga is the cessation of the the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. That's the very beginning of the Yoga Sutras. Is like this is what all this is about, is being able to calm all those fluctuations. Page 148, Sutra 49 of Book 2. The movements of inhalation and exhalation should be controlled. After mastering the posture, we must practice control of prana by controlling the motions of inhalation and exhalation. Some people think pranayama means holding the breath in as long as we can until your nerves are strained. No, our breath should be gentle, slow, and fully controlled without any agitation. For example, in the practice of Nadhi Sudhi, the alternate nostril breathing, and that's the one that looks like this. Do it slowly and gently without any retention of breath to begin with. Later, you can go on to retention. Prana is the cosmic force without which nothing moves or functions. As gasoline, it moves the motor car. As electricity, it radiates light through a bulb. Even our thoughts are moved by prana. By pranayama, we deal with it directly and must be very careful. It's not easy to control your energy. It takes time. In all of us, there is a reserve of prana. An automobile has a reserve tank, which we can open if we run out of gas. God is even more sensible, and has given us a reserve tank that is 100 of times greater than what we use normally. This is called your kundalini, or the coiled force. People talk a lot about rousing kundalini, but when they can't control even their little day-to-day force, what is the purpose of even trying? One should only do it after qualifying and preparing himself or herself. It is for our own safety that I say this. At the proper time, this reserve is released automatically. One shouldn't awake it prematurely by practicing difficult or violent breathing exercises. Page 154, Book 2, Sutra 54. When the senses withdraw themselves from the objects and imitate, as it were, the nature of the mind, this is pratyahara. With pranayama, the mind is still not completely fit because there are other things that will try to pull the mind here and there, namely your senses. They always tell the mind, what a wonderful smell. Go do some things. Get ready, wash your hands, go cook. The mind might even be quiet, but the nose won't allow it to remain so. And the moment the nose says that something is being cooked, the tongue says, well, that saliva is ready. And the eyes say, can I have a look at it? And we must have a good reign over our senses. In the Bhagavad Gita, the battle with the senses is explained in an esoteric way as a battlefield. The battlefield is the world, the turbulent life which distracts us. Arjuna, the individual self, is confused by it and goes to the Lord, Shri Krishna, for help. Suri says, I have a limited capacity. I doubt if I can win the war by myself. You take the reins and drive my war chariot for me. Let me sit quietly behind you and do what you want me to do. When Krishna becomes his charioteer, Arjuna becomes more steadfast and calm. The chariot's white horses, the eyes, nose, tongue, ears, and sense of feeling are called the pancha indriyas, or 5 sensory organs. These organs should be offered to God's service. When they are engaged in that manner, they are controlled. Unless they are properly engaged, they will always drag the mind outside. When the mind is withdrawn from the sense objects, the sense organs also withdraw themselves and are said to imitate the mind. If the senses are allowed to see outside, they try to grasp pictures of the outside world. If they are turned inward, they will see the purity of the mind and won't take the color of the world outside. The senses are like a mirror. Turned outward, they reflect the outside. Turned inward, they reflect the pure light. By themselves, the senses are innocent. But when allowed to turn outside, they attract everything and transfer those messages to the mind, making it restless. Turned inward, they find peace by taking the form of the mind itself. The senses are, in effect, a gateway that allows externals to come to the mind. For example, if we look at a cabinet, we can only understand it as a cabinet if our mind takes that form. That's the law of perception. That's why when we concentrate on something holy, the mind takes that form. When the mind retains it, we get those pictures even in our dreams. When we have sense control, we only allow the mind to take the forms we want. In the Hindu system, the senses are made to engage in spiritual pursuits. Each temple contains colorful things everywhere, beautiful ornaments, lovely flowers, fine dresses. By burning incense, the nose is catered to. By prasad, the tongue is satisfied. But you are seeing and eating in the name of the divine and are grateful to God for all these things. In India, if you want to hear beautiful music free of charge, go to a religious festival. At other times, people pay thousands of rupees to hear the same artists who play for free in a temple. And the musicians play facing God, not the people. And the food is prepared first for God, then everyone else can eat it. Pratyahara is just another way of controlling your mind. To gain mastery is not easy. You shouldn't delude yourself into thinking you've gained mastery even after a few years of practice. Any minute there can be a slip. For example, if a man is interested in observing strict celibacy, he should stay away from women. He need not dislike women, but he shouldn't casually associate with them, even to hug and kiss them as sisters. Although his mouth will call them sister, his senses will take the action in a different way. To achieve the full value of yoga, we must stick to all these precautions and qualify ourselves. The Gita says, yoga is not for the person who eats a lot or for one who starves. Yoga is not for the person who sleeps too much or for one who is always keeping vigil. We shouldn't go to extremes, but should have limitations. Page 161. Book 3, Sutra 1. Dharana is the binding of the mind to one place, object, or idea. When the chittam or sum total of the mind is being bound by one thing, it is in dharana. In other words, in dharana, you're training your mind. It's the beginning of meditation. Concentration is the beginning of meditation. Meditation is the culmination of concentration. They're more or less inseparable. Normally, we see our mind running here and there. When we try to fix it on one thing, within a fraction of a second, we see it somewhere else. Imagine you just want to fix the mind on a beautiful rose. The best practice would be to keep a physical rose in front of you, and as you begin, because it's easier for the mind. Concrete objects, symbols, or images are very helpful for a beginning practice. If it is an idea on which you wish to concentrate, at least have something physical to remind you of that. And while you look at the object, think of the idea connected with it. This is where the practice of tradak, or gazing, also comes in handy. It's actually gazing at something sometimes without even blinking, but don't strain your eyes. Don't look at your object as long as you can. You'll be able to look longer if you put your mind on the idea behind the object, how beautiful it is, what a great gift has come from a thorny bush. Like that, associated ideas will come in. When you get involved in those things, even the gaze will be forgotten, but you will still be gazing without blinking. Don't try to gaze just for the purpose of gazing. If you do that, the eyes will get tired. After a while, you can gently close your eyes and try to bring a mental picture. First, it's outside, then you try to bring it into your mind. It might come for a while and you might lose it. And again, open your eyes. Slowly learn to grasp it within your mind alone. As you think, so you become. If you think of the rose, the mind will take the form of the rose. After a while, you'll easily be able to see it again, see it within, without the aid of any physical object. Even in your worship service, this is what's supposed to be done. You do it physically, the work, and then sit back and try to bring the whole picture in your mind. How did you begin your worship service? What did you do next? Bring the whole procedure to mind in the proper sequence. And once it becomes easy, you don't even need the physical objects or worship anymore. All this is part of dharana. As you look at the rose, the mind will try to go somewhere. And the minute you begin, the mind will say, ah, yes, I remember. She sent me a rose like that for my last birthday. Then the rose is gone from your mind. She is there. And then after that, we had dinner, and it was the best dinner. And then we went to the movies. What was the movies? Was it King Kong? It will all happen within 2 minutes. From the rose to King Kong in 2 minutes, even less. So what are you meditating now? Not on a rose, but on King Kong. Your mind is like that, and it's okay. That's the nature of our mind. There's no reason to get frustrated. At least at that point, say, God, where am I? How far have I come from the rose to King Kong? Shame on me, you, my little fellow. Come on, let's get back to the rose. Never give up and never think, oh, I'm unfit for meditation. This is the biggest mistake people make. They think that the minute they sit and close their eyes, everything should be beautiful. The mind runs here and there. They say meditation is just not for me. A lot of people say that about yin. They say, oh, I can't do yin. It's boring or my mind won't stop running around. It's not for me. I'd rather stay focused on something like power yoga. I feel the same. I see that all the time. But it's like practicing piano or playing guitar. How many times have you cooked your fingers instead of the vegetables? Nothing is learned easily. While learning to bicycle, how many times did you fall? So keep trying, persevere. Remember that Patanjali says in Book 1, Sutra 14, practice becomes firmly grounded when well attended to for a long time, without break, and in all earnestness. This very practice itself is called concentration. You're taming a monkey, and once it's tamed, it will just listen. You'll be able to say, okay, sit there quietly, and it will. At that point, you are meditating. Until then, you're just training yourself to meditate. And training your mind to meditate is what is called dharana. The word for meditation is dhyana. It's the continuous flow of cognition towards that object that you are focused on. The Hindu scripture gives a beautiful example of this continuous flow. They say it is like pouring oil from one pot into another. It is a continuous string, it doesn't break. The mind is fixed. Communication between meditator and object of meditation is steady. That's what is called dhyana. Normally, what we're doing when we say we are meditating is dharana. After a long enough practice of dharana, gradually the flow of cognition gets a little longer and it becomes dhyana. When would you know that you have really meditated? There are some signs. Say you come and sit for meditation at 4:30. Meditation is assigned for an hour. The bell rings at 5:30. If you feel, what? Who rang the bell this soon? I just sat down 5 minutes ago. Then you may have been meditating. But when you feel 5 minutes is an hour, you're not meditating. You're still concentrating. Time has no meaning in meditation, and space also is lost. You don't know where you are. If you break that meditation all of a sudden, you may wonder, what happened to my body? Even the body's forgotten in real meditation. You're above time and space. You're out of your body. When I say out of body, don't think I mean that you're traveling in space. I mean the mind transcends body consciousness. In this sense, meditation is similar to sleep. You don't know you have a body, and even though you still have it, you don't know it. If your sleep is really deep and someone comes and takes your body somewhere, you don't even know. When you wake up, you'll say, I was sleeping on the couch. Who brought me to bed? There are other signs of meditation too. In the beginning, you feel so light when you transcend the body. Sometimes you get beautiful visions connected with the object of your meditation, or sometimes not connected, but still something beautiful and elevating. Sometimes you won't see visions. You'll simply see beautiful light. You will seem to be bathed in beautiful moonlight. Or sometimes you may just hear beautiful sounds like the roaring of the ocean, the sound of a gong, or the beautiful notes of a flute. These are all various signs you may have come across. Normally, I don't say these things much because once you hear that, you may imagine it's happening to you. Instead, it should just happen. Samadhi, Book 3, page 164, Sutra 3, is the same meditation when there is the shining of the object alone, as if devoid of form. There is not much I can say about this one. You will easily understand when you have a little experience. Meditation culminates in the state of samadhi. It's not that you practice samadhi. Nobody can consciously practice it. Our effort is there only up to meditation. You put all your effort in dharana, it becomes effortless in dhyana, and you're just there knowing that you're in meditation. But in samadhi, you don't even know that. You're not there to know it because you are that. You think first with a lot of interruptions, that's dharana. Then when you become what you think, that is samadhi. In meditation, you have three things: the meditator, the meditation, and the object meditated upon. In samadhi, there is neither the object or the meditator. There is no feeling of, I am meditating on that. To give a scientific analogy, if you keep on adding drops of an alkaline solution to an acid, at one point the solution becomes alkaline. At that point, you're simply adding alkali to alkali. There's no more acid there. The giver and receiver become one. Earlier, the receiver was an acid, and the giver was alkali. As you add the alkali drop by drop and keep testing it with your litmus paper, at one point, all of a sudden, you notice you are no longer an acid. Who are you? The same alkali as God. You and God become one. That's samadhi. It's rather difficult to put in writing, in words. If you just keep working, you will know what samadhi is. Of course, there are different lower samadhis, as we talked about earlier in the first book. There are samadhis connected with form, with idea, with bliss, and with pure ego. All these four still leave some parts of the mind with hidden desires. You're not completely free. The ideas in the mind are not completely roasted. They could still germinate again. That's why all these four are called sabija samadhi, sabija samadhi. Bija means seed. They're with seed. Don't think you are all clean and everything's okay. As long as the seed is in the bag, it seems to be innocent. But the minute you take one seed out, dig a little hole, put it in, and pour a little water, then it comes up again. The sprouting tendency is always there. As long as you have that tendency, you're still in the other forms of samadhi. But once you get completely roasted, even that germinating capacity goes away. In all external appearances, the seeds are the same, but even if they are put into holes and watered, they won't germinate. What does that even mean? All the thoughts, all the desires become selfless. Selfishness is the germ that sprouts saying, I want it. When the selfishness is completely taken out, you become germless. That is called Nirbija Samadhi or Nirvikalpa Samadhi. One who has achieved this may look similar to anyone else, but the burnt nature of his or her mental seeds is the difference between ordinary people and the Jivamuktas. That means liberated beings. They also eat, sleep, and do everything like everybody else. They may be doing anything, but they're not affected by what they do. There is no moisture of attachment to cause sprouting. They're living as liberated people. Liberation is not something you experience when you die. While living, you should be liberated. Mukta means liberated. Jivan means while living. That is the final state of samadhi. It is not sitting stiffly with your eyes closed. If sitting like a statue is what you call samadhi, all the rocks in the garden must be in deep samadhi. No. You will be useful. You'll be active, more active than other people. Your actions are more perfect than other people's. You are dynamic, but you look static. Opposites meet. Extremes look alike. A top that is not rotating is motionless. The same top at its highest velocity also looks motionless. Lack of light is darkness. Keep on increasing the light, you get blinded by the light, you feel you're in darkness again. A total sattvic person appears to be very quiet. A totally tamasic one is also quiet. The last one, page 166, book 3, Sutra 4. The practice of these three upon one object is called samyama. From this practice comes the siddhis. You dive deeply into an object or idea and it releases its secrets. In a way, scientists have done samyama, on the atomic particles. The particles released their energy and the scientists got the knowledge of them. They accompanied the truth behind the particles. Samyama is usually done on objects or ideas connected with some results. When the results come, you call them siddhis or vibhuti. That is all the reading homework from the past 2 weeks. It ended up being an hour and a half. So if you were sitting in any yoga pose or moving through any yoga while listening to that, you can definitely count it as an hour and a half towards your 40-hour requirement, or as our Thursday night, hour and a half out of those 2 hours. And that would meet your requirement for the week, listening to this as well as practicing that hatha sequence that I sent out. The whole book is meant to be a practical manual for you to live a more peaceful and joyous life. There's a lot of specific things given, but just remember a couple things. When you're ready, it'll make sense. And you don't have to rush it. You don't have to push it. If something doesn't make sense, it's okay. It just doesn't mean that it's for now. It might be for later. And you can meditate on anything that is elevating to you. If any of it doesn't make sense, let it go. Everybody has different paths, different routes, different ideas. So use what works, leave the rest. And lastly, yoga meets you where you are. So this was written for people at the time. It's what they needed. We might need different things now. So we can read it, we can appreciate it, we can study it, we can learn different things from it, but keep in mind it was written in another time. Okay. That's it. That's all I have. See you soon. Bye.